Downtown Chicago had seen its share of chaos over the years, but what unfolded that gray afternoon was unlike anything residents had ever experienced. The city's heart, normally pulsing with tourists, taxis, and laughter spilling from cafes, turned into a war zone within minutes. Sirens howled from every direction, helicopters roared overhead, and the echo of boots on pavement drowned out the usual hum of the streets. It began with a sudden surge of people flooding Michigan Avenue, hundreds moving fast, some shouting in Spanish and others in English, their anger raw, their faces twisted with desperation. They weren't just protesters. Many were migrants who had recently arrived in the city, seeking work, safety, and a place to belong. But what started as a demonstration against rumored deportations spiraled into a violent confrontation that would scar Chicago's downtown for years to come. Before we start, hit the like and subscribe buttons for more exclusive news. The crowd gathered near Millennium Park first, swelling with tension as word spread through social media that an immigration and customs enforcement unit, rumored to be operating without city authorization, was nearby. Shouting erupted, people waving flags of Mexico, Venezuela, and Honduras, and handmade signs demanding dignity and shelter. For weeks, the city had struggled to accommodate thousands of new arrivals bussed from southern states. Temporary shelters overflowed. Public sentiment was split sharply. Some citizens welcomed them, others demanded their removal. The strain reached a breaking point that day when rumors of an ICE battalion moving into the loop hit the internet like wildfire. Within moments, the demonstration shifted. Banners dropped to the ground as groups of younger men began smashing windows, overturning trash cans, and dragging barricades into the streets. Police tried to form a line, but the sheer size of the crowd overwhelmed them. Chants of "Libertad para todos" merged with the crack of glass and the pounding of fists against storefronts. Panic spread among bystanders, shoppers, and workers trapped in offices above the chaos. Sirens blended into the roar of a city unraveling in real time. At first, no one believed ICE would actually appear. Chicago had long prided itself on being a sanctuary city, resistant to federal immigration crackdowns. But what came next defied expectations. Down State Street, an armored convoy rolled in. Black SUVs with tinted windows followed by tactical trucks bearing the unmistakable insignia of federal authority. Officers in dark uniforms, helmets gleaming under the afternoon light, emerged in formation. Each carried shields, non-lethal launchers, and rifles slung across their chests. The air grew electric. Phones shot up to record. Protesters began hurling bottles, rocks, and improvised explosives. Then, the first round of tear gas burst through the air. The crowd scattered, coughing and choking, eyes streaming as plumes of white smoke swallowed the avenue. But they didn't run far. Anger turned to fury. Groups reassembled behind overturned vehicles and began lighting fires, pulling metal poles from construction sites to use as weapons. The clash had become a siege, with ICE at one end and a furious mass of migrants and sympathizers at the other. Federal agents advanced block by block, their boots thudding in unison, the rhythm of control and intimidation. Loudspeakers ordered the crowd to disperse in both English and Spanish. Few listened. Journalists arrived, cameras rolling, capturing the surreal transformation of downtown Chicago into a conflict zone. Storefronts that hours before had been selling designer handbags now stood shattered, their mannequins toppled. Street artists' murals were half burned, their colors bleeding into the smoke. Overhead drones recorded everything: the chaos, the confrontation, the cries of those caught between the lines. What began as a protest of migrants' uncertain fate had turned into a spectacle of federal power unleashed in the heart of America's third largest city. The ICE unit, unofficially dubbed the Battalion by onlookers and the press, moved with chilling precision. It wasn't just about arresting a few undocumented individuals anymore. It was a show of dominance. Officers in black tactical vests spread across intersections, cutting off escape routes. They herded groups of people toward makeshift checkpoints, detaining dozens on the spot. The scenes were chaotic. Children crying, mothers pleading, young men shouting as they were pushed to the ground. The city's own police force seemed paralyzed, uncertain whether to assist or withdraw. For many residents, the image of federal agents operating freely in their streets was both shocking and deeply symbolic. By late afternoon, smoke rose in columns over the loop. Fire trucks fought blazes at multiple intersections while paramedics worked to treat those overcome by tear gas. Reporters shouted questions at officials demanding explanations for the excessive force. Why had ICE been deployed at all? Why had non-lethal rounds been fired into crowds of civilians? And most hauntingly, why had it come to this? The silence from City Hall only deepened the sense of unease. The event struck a nerve that went beyond immigration. It tore open the deeper tensions simmering beneath the surface of Chicago's identity, between its liberal sanctuary policies and the federal government's hardline enforcement tactics. For years, the city had been a symbol of defiance, offering shelter to those without papers, speaking of compassion and inclusion. But that day, compassion collided head-on with control. The ICE battalion, as people called it, embodied everything the sanctuary movement feared: militarized power crushing human desperation in broad daylight. Witnesses described the sound of batons striking pavement, of bodies hitting the ground, of shouted commands blending with screams. Federal vehicles rumbled through intersections, scattering debris and people alike. A group of young migrants tried to raise their hands, shouting that they were unarmed, but the line of agents advanced regardless, firing more canisters to push them back. Journalists documented a scene that resembled a battlefield more than a city center. Every move seemed choreographed for maximum impact, an unmistakable message that order would be enforced at any cost. For the migrants, it was an eruption of fear and betrayal. Many had fled violence in their homelands, only to face it again under a different flag. Some had come through dangerous crossings, others through humanitarian parole programs. Chicago had represented hope, a city of refuge. Yet that afternoon it became a mirror of the very forces they thought they had escaped. As dusk fell, the streets glowed orange from burning trash bins and broken streetlights. The acrid stench of tear gas hung in the air long after the clashes died down. The implications were immediate and far-reaching. News of the event spread across the nation within hours, accompanied by shaky phone videos and frantic live streams. The images of agents in riot gear storming through Chicago's core ignited debates across social media. Was this federal overreach or necessary law enforcement? Were the migrants peaceful until provoked? Or had they turned violent first? The truth, as always, depended on the lens through which one viewed it. Yet no matter the interpretation, one fact remained: the images could not be unseen. Chicago's downtown, the Loop, that vibrant grid of glass and steel, had become the stage for a defining confrontation in America's struggle over immigration and authority. The very idea of sanctuary was on trial. The ICE battalion's overwhelming display of force underscored a reality long brewing beneath policy debates: that the machinery of enforcement would not hesitate to assert itself, even in the most politically defiant cities. The sight of heavily armed officers moving through a major urban center sent shockwaves through immigrant communities nationwide. Inside the chaos, human stories unfolded, quiet, painful, and often unseen. A Honduran father shielding his daughter from a rubber bullet. A Venezuelan nurse clutching her medical papers as agents tore through her bag. A teenage boy shouting for his mother as the smoke swallowed them both. These moments, fleeting but unforgettable, captured the tragedy of that day more vividly than any headline. For those who lived it, it wasn't politics, it was survival. By evening, the streets were littered with shattered glass and burned debris. Police scanners buzzed with chatter about detentions and medical emergencies. The city's emergency rooms overflowed with the injured, both protesters and bystanders. Many had burns, bruises, or chemical exposure. Volunteers and activists worked through the night distributing water, masks, and blankets. The chaos might have subsided, but the trauma lingered in every exhausted breath. The confrontation also exposed a breakdown in communication between local and federal authorities. Chicago's leadership had not authorized such an operation, yet ICE had moved in with military-style precision. The term battalion, though unofficial, captured the mood. This was no ordinary enforcement action. It was a tactical occupation, a flexing of federal muscle in a city that had prided itself on resistance. The sheer scale of the response, dozens of vehicles, hundreds of agents, and aerial surveillance, suggested a level of preparation far beyond what anyone had anticipated. If you liked this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, could you leave your comments below and tell us? What are your thoughts on the Chicago incident involving illegals? We want to hear from you. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.